live button. And then I'm going to refresh over here on YouTube. I think it'll work. It's probably going to start like blaring in my ear any moment. All right. It says it's waiting for TapTapKaboom. There we go. I'm going to mute it. Perfect. Okay, we are live officially. I'm ready. Welcome, Chris Fleck. This guy is an absolute legend. I'm actually just going to put down, bam, live with Chris Fleck on screen.
Boom.
So that means if anybody's watching, they can see how to spell Chris Fleck, although it is quite a normal, awesome name, not like hard to pronounce or anything like that. Welcome. What an introduction. I feel like the guy at the start of A Knight's Tale who's like, the wonderful, the awesome Elric von Liechtenstein. But welcome.
Thank you.
That was such a simple way to like counteract my big hype. Just like, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So let's kick things off.
That's what I'm experiencing, man.
It's good.
You know me, I like to talk a lot, but sometimes it's also really nice to just keep it to the minimum. It's also nice.
Oh man, I tell people, like, people say like, who you been talking to? Like, I'm like, it's Chris again, like he's the guy who asks all these questions and he's the guy who talks a lot, but not just like random rambles, like it's good stuff. Like I'm often like writing stuff down and be like, whoa, Chris made me think. Or there's been a couple of questions that you've asked that I've just been like, hold on, can we just like pause this conversation? Like, whoa, this is really good. So I appreciate your different way of viewing things, different way of doing things. You're always just like, I don't know, it sounds cliche, but like this breath of fresh air. Just like, man, that conversation was so good. Whether I was doing a lot of talking or whether you were doing a lot of talking, just always so good. So I want to then start off.
Thank you. It's very kind.
It's not really an interview, right? It's like conversation, but people don't know who you are. How would you introduce yourself if you met somebody at a party, maybe, but perhaps at a meditation retreat or at a business networking thing, and they were like, hey, who are you? What do you do? Like, how do you introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I really don't like this idea of the elevator pitch, at least the studied elevator pitch. I always feel like to me, it feels very cringe.
Yeah.
To put yourself in this like pressure environment where like, oh fuck, I need to like really deliver something within 10 seconds because otherwise the person's attention will be gone. What I've discovered is when you are saying what you actually mean, and when you are excited about what you say, then people, they're just magnetically drawn to you, and they will listen to you for 5 minutes. So you can even screw up the introduction and screw up your elevator pitch, because I don't know how many elevators really go like for 5 minutes. So that's kind of like to set the stage a little bit. I struggled so much with trying to over engineer who I am and what I do, and obviously it's nice to have something. So I would mostly, if someone asks me like, who are you, I introduce my name, even though I know that I probably forget it after 10 seconds. Doesn't matter.
You should just tell them again, like, I know you forgot my name, but it's Chris Fleck. You should remember that. Like, remember that.
Yeah.
I'm going to test you. 30 seconds. Hold on. It's my name, Chris Fleck. Remember it, man.
You should. No, and then it's helping people making better decisions through body awareness practices, through meditation, through coaching, and through what I now, and I've just recently discovered that, but sometimes I use through the art of slowing down, or through the practice of slowing down. And that often brings up a lot of questions, like what is this, and so on and so on and so forth. But what I found really is that, and I thought about this for years, what is it that makes it tangible? Because it is in a way it's intangible work, right?
Yeah.
And this is actually not to devalue art, but more like to how can I say, to illustrate, like if you in your background you have a piece of art and you made it, and you can say, hey, what do you do? And then you say, hey, I do backgrounds and I draw them myself. It's like, okay, good. Can you show this to me? Okay, good. With the work that I do, the showing part is more of an implicit thing,
Yeah.
and it's much more indirect, and it's connected to what you've just described. Like there is this conversation, you feel something shifted within you, but you cannot really say it was because of that or because of that or because of that. And the reason why that is because of presence, and we cannot measure presence, and we cannot measure attention and directing attention somewhere, and we cannot measure intuitive impulses or and we cannot measure the stuff that is beyond the mind and the body.
But we
And
can feel it,
so,
right?
oh, sorry, my mic is. Oh, we can feel it. Yeah, we can feel it. It's like it's there, and then it lands in through a sensation. Through there is this acronym called SIFT: sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And this is how we make sense of the world. So we hear something, we smell something, we just get this, oh wow. Or you get my favorite is goosebumps.
Okay, yeah.
There was this and I think they still do it. There is an event organizer in Austria, and they do a beach volleyball event, and apparently like it's one of the most famous in the world. And funny enough, Austria doesn't have any beaches because we don't have a sea. But for years they were really, really, really good in beach volleyball. And so there
So
was this
weird.
event, and yeah, so weird. And the slogan was name of the event. I don't know, beach volleyball something. Goosebumps don't lie.
Oh,
And I really love that one. And
it
so
is
a
really
lot of
cool.
like to circle back, a lot of that work, when you say, yeah, you can say making better decisions, and then you can say, okay, in which areas of your life, essentially, in my understanding, if we listen to the goosebumps that we get, then we ultimately make better decisions because they show us the truth.
Like follow your goosebumps, you know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like think back to a time where I had goosebumps that was related to a decision. I mean, I used to be involved a lot in I'm just gonna say the church. I'm trying to like think of the best way to explain it, like a charismatic church. It's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hands up, a lot of music, a lot of like Holy Spirit kind of stuff. But the amount of times I felt goosebumps, you know, was
Yeah.
pretty incredible. And I was like, I like that feeling. Looking back, I'm like not quite sure what was happening, but I certainly liked that feeling. And now at times when people say stuff or I'm thinking about something, I do get
Yeah.
goosebumps, you know? And when you said presence earlier, I was like, I don't think I've like said that much, but the idea of someone's presence, definitely it's huge. And I remember the black hole experience of one of my first bosses walking into the room on like a Tuesday morning after he'd had a fight with his wife or something. And it was just like he didn't say anything, but everyone was just like
Yeah.
and everyone was like suddenly like, shit, like don't
Yeah.
do anything. Don't even say hello, nothing. You
Right.
know? And like I don't know how that works, you know, but then obviously you get the other kind of people who you spend time with them and you feel so comfortable. You feel like you're alive. You feel like you can share so much, you know. And I'm just wondering like what Steve Jobs's presence would have been like. Would have people have been like, I believe so much in myself, but I'm shit scared at the same time? Because he had this like thing called like his force field where he'd be like, yeah, I want the computer to like boot up 45 seconds quicker. And the developer's like, can't be done. The next day, it's done. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, it can be done, actually. So I guess, yeah, one of my questions now is like, can you practice presence, or or does everybody just have like a natural presence, almost like a frequency or something like that, or a vibrational thing?
Yeah. So okay, there are many things to unwrap. Mm, we are if you look at it from the metaphysical perspective, and I have to say I'm not a physicist and I only have surface level knowledge, but what
Okay,
we know there is,
disclaimer, everybody.
yeah, the disclaimer, and please, like, there is for sure experts around who know much better, but I think there is some, from my understanding, there is common consensus that there is the atomic world, and if
Hmm.
you zoom in, there is the subatomic world, which is particles, electrons, force fields, this kind of stuff. And then they understand that actually an atom is nothing solid, but that it consists of nothing and something, and mostly it consists of nothing, but it's all like it's energy and matter. And no one has ever seen a substance called matter, so all of that is super super weird and odd. But what they understand is this idea of the field, or the energetic, say, the energy field. And
Yeah.
in a simplified way, we are vibrating just by default, whether we do something that we like, whether we do something that we don't like. And the same is with being. Like, I have to smile a lot when people say, so I have to drop into being more and do less. And I'm like, I understand the notion where it comes from, because we have certain ideas of what doing means and we have certain ideas of what being means. But actually,
Mm.
you can never not be.
Yeah.
Like, and where does the being end and when does the doing start? Being and doing are mental constructs that help us to make sense of our world a bit better or worse, depending on how we see it.
Yeah.
Um, but there is no way how we can ever not be. I think this is very important, because we get so hung up in, oh, I just need to be more. Yeah, of course, but it doesn't have necessarily, it has to do with all the, like, if you look at your day, for example, at all your activities, that how you spend your time with, basically. So if you're sitting right now, for example, you are doing a shitload of stuff. You're
Yes.
listening, you're sitting, you're being attentive, you're making sense of what I'm saying so that you can probably prepare the next question that comes of it. But
Spinning my
you're also
ring.
being,
Yeah.
yeah, you're doing that. Then like you're, I don't know, perceiving the temperature around in the room, like all of these things. Like, there's a lot of doing involved, right?
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of being involved, because it's just who you, like, just what you are. And so, coming back to the question, can we train presence?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. And it's so simple that it's always overlooked. At least I overlooked it for most of my life. And
Okay.
it's just the simple act of knowing what's happening in this very moment. Like, you are aware that you're sitting right now. I'm aware that I'm talking right now. A listener might be aware that they are watching right now or listening right now.
Yeah.
That's literally all there is to do. And we need to do that over and over and over and over again. And maybe you're noticing, and we can play this actually in the next few minutes. You can just be like, hey, I'm listening. I know that I'm listening while I'm
Mm.
listening. And when you're sharing, when you're about to say something, you can be like, hey, I know I'm talking. But the fact that you're knowing that you're talking doesn't influence what you actually say. You're just being aware of it. And that brings a sense of lightness and a wakefulness, and a very like, okay,
Mm.
this is going on. It's hard to describe, but I, for example, I can feel it in this moment right now, that
Yeah.
my level of awareness and my level of presence is more active, is more activated, but it's different than before. Because before I was more in the head, I was a bit nervous, I was a bit, how is like how is it gonna be? How am I gonna feel? Like all these things. So I was not fully here.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
now, when I bring myself back into the reality that I'm experiencing right now, because this is my reality in this moment and also yours, this creates, if we do this on a okay, let's do one quick detour.
That's good.
This is what I
Detours
would
are good.
consider the informal mental training, or the
Okay.
informal mindfulness training or practice. Choose whatever name you want. Just like in your daily life, on the podcast, afterwards, when you drink something, just okay, know that you hold it and know that you're about to drink something. Or when you have a dry mouth, just notice that. Just know that that's happening. Those are like these small micro moments that eventually build up, that you have a much stronger foundation. So when the shit hits the fan, or
Yeah.
when you are really stressed, what happens is we become afraid, our vision gets narrow,
Yeah.
and we tend to, which makes sense because we want to survive. So we bring all our attention to this one thing, which is to survive,
Yeah.
um, which is important, but most of the times it's not really that important, and it's not beneficial, and it's actually harmful.
Hmm.
So the important thing is then, how quickly can I just bring myself out of the situation into the observer mode? So I'm like, okay, I'm experiencing this. So how much can I actually come back to safety, come back to the safe baseline, and to the place from which I can observe and see everything, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that ability can be trained. And the more we train it, formal way would be any kind of meditation practice. And if we train that, we are literally rewiring our brain, and we're giving us the ability to come back into the present moment, into our, call it our core, or our center, or that solid baseline from which we are aware that, okay, I'm scared. Okay, I'm thinking of this. And that awareness, again, that presence, gives me the ability to make much better choices. When
Hmm.
I'm in the rut, when I'm in the drama, which obviously happens to all of us, it's very difficult to make a clear decision.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of, say, perhaps like in the last 3 or 4 months, I viewed myself almost like a Sims character. For those of us who
Hmm.
don't know what Sims are, it's like a video game where you control the people, you send them to work, you build their house, that kind of stuff. And at times I'm like, oh, Rich is experiencing a problem. Rich is feeling frustrated. Rich is feeling tired.
Yeah,
Interesting. Haven't felt that
yeah,
before. What should Rich do? Whereas before, I'd just be like, oh, like I'm tired, I'm going to sleep, or not
yeah,
even realize I'm tired. I'm just snapping at people and
yeah,
frustrated. And now I'm like, oh, like I get a choice now. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, Rich, you should go to bed. Stop working. Go to bed. Don't eat candy. It's not good for your sleep. Go to bed, you know, go to sleep. And it's like, it's been really empowering seeing
mm,
myself as a video game character because I quite like
yeah,
video games, especially as a kid, rather than
yeah,
like trying to be like, I don't know, spiritual or metaphysical about it, be like,
yeah,
go outside of your mind. It's like, I don't know how to do that. Like, see yourself as a video game character. Yeah, I can do that. Totally cool. Just put like
mm,
a sword in my hand, it'll be even cooler. But it's just like that ability to just know, like, hey, this is happening. And sometimes I'm even
mm,
able to now perhaps like ask provocative questions or poke the bear a little bit, knowing that there is going to be a more intense response coming from a person. And I'm just
yeah,
like, interesting.
yeah,
Like, I'm able to deal with stuff that comes my way a lot better because I'm like, Rich is facing some heat right now. And I don't have to respond because Rich is dealing with it and I get to control Rich. It's almost like fun. It's like you're in
yeah,
control of your life again.
yeah. And it's amazing because it's so funny that we're having this conversation right now about this topic, because it's something that that I've been reading and listening and also experiencing and trying to or practicing to experiment with myself. Like I feel it's always this: you can read, it's not. I can read, it's nice. You can listen, it's nice. But
Yeah.
direct experience is the best teacher
Yeah.
by far. Direct experience that only you experience, and then you can embody whatever you need to embody. This is the most amazing. And you've shared like when I remember you correctly, you said something along the lines of, I tell Rich what to do, right?
Yes.
I tell Rich, don't have candy.
Yeah.
And the spiritual quest is, who is that I? Like,
Yeah.
who is giving the command, right? Or who is observing? And who is having like this? Who is this? Who is that? Because if you say, I am giving Rich the command, who
Yeah.
is that I? And I feel the more we, in a playful way, right? You can be very harsh about it, with like, oh, what's the meaning of life and blah blah. But like, no, seriously. And I've been there many times into this rabbit hole. Oh my god.
Yeah, I get you.
But if you look at it in this playful way of playful detachment from our experience, and knowing that you are the character of the, like you're the Sims character, and you can experience all of like you see the Sims character, I don't know, having coffee or having a fight with your wife or whatever, or playing with your daughter, and you can like literally like experience it fully. And at the
Yeah.
same time, you are also the one who sees who literally, like, it's like Sims who sees everything from above. It's like hovering over your house, like an eagle with crystal clear vision.
Yeah.
I just learned that they have they can spot prey from 1.5 kilometers,
Yeah, like really high, right?
like a fish. They see a fish underneath this, like swimming in the sea from 1.5 kilometers above, and they're like, let's get this one. Okay.
No, it's crazy, man. Yeah.
But actually,
Wait.
the with the mindfulness and with everything that you've described, I find it incredibly interesting. Personal, it's a personal experiment that I've been doing in the last weeks, to look
Yeah.
at the quality with which I can observe and how sharp it is. And sometimes it really feels to me like has the sharpness of, the eagle who sees it that clearly. And that clarity, as you say, like I also feel it gives a sense of control over your life. I believe control doesn't exist, because I don't know what happens in 5 minutes. But what I do know is, if I'm like, as long as I'm alive, and
Yeah.
as long as I'm alive, I can be in autopilot or I can be in pilot. And when I'm in autopilot, then I'm the video game character without seeing the whole plot of the game or the scene of
Yeah.
the game. And if I'm the pilot, then I'm the player, but also I'm the director of the play. And with every
Yeah.
moment, it's like you make a step, and then you can go infinite ways, and then you make a
Yeah.
next step, and you can go also infinite ways. And this goes moment after moment after moment. And
Yeah.
that awareness brings this sense of safety and this sense of control. I feel it's more a sense of safety than control for me.
It's definitely a feeling, like you feel like you're in control, but the or safety, but the idea of being uh, a pilot or on autopilot rings true to this idea that I like exploring of living creatively. It's like,
Yeah.
and then going back to playing video games, there are these NPC or non-player characters in the world. And honestly, like sometimes I think that we're living in a simulation or something. And I'm like, who are the non-player characters? Like, do they have godlike abilities? Do they even sleep at night? I don't know. Am I actually the
Can you
only
explain that to
player?
me? What's that, an NPC in very simple terms?
Or like a computer player. It's like if
Hmm.
you're playing a multiplayer game, so we're playing a game together, but there's 8 people on screen. There's only 2 humans. The rest of them are controlled by the computer. And they're just kind of like arbing around, pick up a sword, put it down.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a little bit harder, like they're a boss or something, but they're not a character, you know? They're actually just part of the game. And so it's like, how many people are there like that in the world? Am I the only character and like everybody else is like watching me from somewhere else? Or are there only 100? Or like, I don't know. But I kind of feel like when you're on autopilot, you become a non-player character. You're being controlled by something else. You're living this life in automatic mode. You're not thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just eating bad. You're just doing everything just as is. And maybe a lot of it is like fed to you by society. It's definitely fed to you by your past actions. So like you can change your habits, right? You can get a whole bunch of things going on autopilot, like eating healthy, maybe being mindful, being kind, a whole bunch of stuff. But when you start like living and choosing more frequently what you do each day, like that kind of stuff, just it blows people's lives up in a good way. It's like, I don't want to work in my job anymore. Like at that point, someone like wakes up from the matrix or stops being a non-player character. They go from autopilot to I'm in control. I may not like what's going on here, but now I'm choosing. I'm choosing to maybe not quit my job, but I'm choosing to spend 10 minutes today playing the guitar because that is fun. Or actually, I'm going for a swim in the freezing cold river because that makes me come alive and whew, I feel good after that. And that was crazy. And it's definitely proof that I'm, you know, not living on autopilot. And then the next day, you're like, I can do what I want to do again for 5 or 10 minutes. Or maybe I'm going to do something drastic and sell everything, quit my job and go traveling around the world because that's what I want to do. But then after some time, you could then be like, yeah, I've been traveling for 5 years. Like that becomes autopilot. Like your dream is no longer the dream. Your dream is somebody else's dream, sure, but you're not living on in full intentional creative mode. You've gone back to autopilot or NPC. So I want to get into then segue. You've just done this. You've just sold everything. You're in Ibiza, but you're not from Ibiza. Yeah, how's your Spanish, by the way? Is it coming along?
It is coming along to the extent that I can order food and coffee, which is something that I'm incredibly proud of.
Well, there we go. That's all you need, right?
Yeah, that's all you need. And also people speak perfect English, which is sometimes very frustrating when you but I have to say
learning Spanish hard. Yeah.
But the Spanish are very very supportive. So they wouldn't always reply in English or just like keep talking to you in English. They would some of them really they really appreciate that you want to practice.
Yeah. Well, the Dutch are not like that most of the time. They're like, oh, I get to, you know, practice my English. Let's go. And you try. Speak Dutch and they reply in English. Speak Dutch, they reply in English. I realized I'm probably at a grade 1 level in Dutch because we took our daughter to go for an inbergering, which is, maybe it's even the wrong thing. It's like what is it called? It's like their first like look at what's happening, like an intake, something like that. She spoke in Dutch, but she was a grade 1 teacher and I understood everything. And I'm like, yes, I think I'm at grade 1 level Dutch. Felt very proud. It was great. But now back to you. So you've kind of just like left everything behind, but it's not just like step 1 in your journey. Like it's been for me anyway, like I haven't known you for that long, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah,
could you like that. Explain like what maybe the last 2 years have been like? What has led to this? Like you've been through a number of things. You've gone through a number of things.
Mm.
I've got a lot of questions, but the floor is yours.
Mm.
Because for me, this is creative living at its peak. Like you're trying things. You've got multiple things going on. It's not just like you've started this thing called the Slowdown Club. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're now a nomad. You don't have a
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Like you've left a whole bunch of stuff behind. You're not taking up new
Mm.
things.
Yeah. Give me a moment to sort where I'm gonna start. So
I mean, you can do
I
a
was at a,
Quentin Tarantino thing and just be like, I'm going to start at the end. Ta-da! And then go back to the start if you want.
yeah. Oh, it's all right. So what led to the decision was a very, very deep conversation with my partner, who is also with me on the island right now, where we were like, I noticed a pattern, and it was very painful, and it was very very, very triggering. And the pattern was, I said, if this then that. So if we have more resources, then we're gonna do it. If I have more, I don't know, if I have like 500 paying members, or if I have the certain, it's not about the money only, but it's like if I have certain structures set up, then I'm gonna do it. And the same goes for many other things in life. And I realized that this pattern was actually keeping me trapped in Vienna. I had the feeling, like an inner feeling, to leave Vienna for a while, but somehow I just didn't have the guts to do it. I was too comfortable. To be really honest, I was too comfortable where I was living. And then also 2 years ago, no, 1.5 years ago, I suffered from a big mental health challenge. So that also kind of kept me in Vienna, because back then in that situation, I didn't really want to, like, I don't know, go to Thailand and travel somewhere or go to a monastery or something. I felt I felt safe with close to my family, close to my friends, close to the doctors and the therapists that I knew, or close to, or with that knowing of, hey, in Austria, this is the place that you've been living for 15 years. This is where you grew up. This is where you know how things work. And when we are in situations, when we are challenged by, it can be anything. In my case, it was the mental health challenge. Like, then you naturally seek some kind of security and stability and safety. So I found this super beautiful flat, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is an amazing flat." People were telling me you cannot find something like this in Vienna. And I remember I sent you pictures every now and then, I think, from the water, which is like, it was a dream place and it was amazing. However, I felt over, after living there for 1.5 years, that wasn't it. And I remember when I told my parents, for example, that I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, like, my father was was crashing. He just couldn't understand, and he had difficulty to understand. And I know that deep down he's just worried. He's just worried that that I'm safe and that I'm secure. That's what I understand. And so this realization of, hey, you're reliving a pattern that keeps you in your comfort zone, that at times felt actually very uncomfortable, that made me realize, okay, Chris, you've done a few things very, very right, and some stuff that you're really proud of in the last 2 years, which is like really with so much determination and so much of going up and down and up and down, and then going through this phase of depression. Like, I kept on building amazing relationships. I kept on generating, I would call this like warm leads for the upcoming business. Like, I kept on doing so many things which I'm really, really proud of, like building the brand online, uh, really getting excellent in writing copy back then without AI. Now learning to or playing around with it, but actually just the act of like mastering this craft of becoming really good at writing, something that I personally enjoy. Like I recently, the other day, I gave a prompt to ChatGPT and I said, like, take my last 5 posts and write something about this in my tone of voice. And to be really honest with you, Rich, it was very close. Like, if I would probably train it better, then you couldn't really say. The thing is, I'm not interested in that. I am not interested in that because it's not making me feel alive. I love writing. I need this stuff to figure out my own thinking. And that I kept doing that, it's something that I'm really, really proud of. What I'm not so proud of, and what like really initiated the change, was that there were there was this thinking in safety and thinking in if this then that actually got me trapped in thinking about a future that eventually never arrives. And that led me to the decision, to that kind of quite radical decision to say, hey, okay, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna sell everything, I'm gonna work and travel together with my partner, which is something that's amazing. To be honest, I don't think that I would have done it without her. She pushed me in a very, very, very good way.
Nice.
So yeah, this is kind of where I am. And if there's one thing that I realized, really, like I was thinking about this a lot, like what's the one thing? Because I like to, distill it and draw out the essence of stuff.
Yeah.
And the one thing is really that it's the one thing is 2 things. First, no one fucking cares. Literally, no one cares at all. We are so busy with ourselves and what other people might think about me, blah. No one cares. Everyone is at least as busy with themselves as you are with yourself. And now can just imagine how busy people are with themselves.
Yeah. And
It's a
if
very
everybody
fleeting
cared
realization.
if everybody cared like your dad cared about you, you'd be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go. If everybody was like, yo, Chris, I'm worried about you, man. Don't go. This seems like a terrible idea. You should probably stay in Vienna. Like, it's probably going to be safe. You don't know what kind of hooligans and criminals are out there. I don't know. You might die from snake bites or something. It just sounds like if everybody cared to that degree, like it just sounds like all the fears, all the voices, all the tricks that fear uses for you to stay where you are. Or you get people telling you a whole bunch of stuff and you'd be like, yeah, but that's not me. Like, I don't want to go to New York.
The thing is, Rich, the thing is, we have this wrong assumption that we create this illusion of safety. We say,
yes,
if I have that level of health, then this will happen. If I have this much money, then I can do this. And obviously, to a certain extent, we're living in a material world, and certain structures need to be set up. Yes.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of this story. There is a girl. I mean, now she's probably a woman, and she had literally no money at all, and she wanted to travel the world. And she got she got feedback and this and that, and everyone was telling her, hey, you can't do it because in order to travel the world, you need money. It's not going to work. And then she had a mentoring session with someone, and that mentor was like, hey, what is it that you really like? Why do you want to travel the world? And then she said, I just love photography so much. I like to make photographs of all the great places in the world because this is my dream. For whatever reason, that was her dream. And then that mentor supported her to, hey, you can do it. And she said, yeah, but I can't because I don't have money. And then he said, what if you go to the airline and tell them that you will make pictures of their travel destinations, like the best ones they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And instead, like as a as a compensation, they will take her for free.
Yeah.
And so this is what she did in the beginning, and eventually she made a whole living out of it, because back then it was really important for these airlines to have really, really good photos of their travel destinations. And she was the one who started doing that for them. And so this way of thinking you don't get from your dad always. This is very generalized now, okay? And there are
Very
probably
seldom.
dads out there who are like doing the exact opposite, and there is no right or wrong, because we act always with to the best that we can with the abilities and with the resources that we have in any given moment, right?
Yeah.
And there is, especially with loved ones, there is never bad intention. Like they
Wait,
just want that
I just gotta pause you there and just be like, I love you, Dad. Thank you. You're amazing.
yeah,
But now you can carry on.
yes. No, it's the truth, and accepting that, no matter if you get like understanding also that you don't always need to get the direct support of your loved ones in order to make the choices that make
Yeah.
you feel alive in the moment, is very freeing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, for a while I was like, oh my god, why is not everyone fully supporting this? And I was like, it doesn't really matter. But also, what I've noticed, and that comes back to something that you've asked before, like, yes, I can stay in the comfort zone, and yes, I could have
Yeah.
stayed in Vienna, of course, and I know that many people stay where they are because maybe they get a good salary, but maybe they even get a bad salary, but they feel like they feel trapped.
Yeah.
And now there is two ways. You can either accept the situation fully and ease into it. And I mean, if you ask me, it's the very, very difficult practice, but some people can do it. Then there is you kind of endure it, which eventually causes a cascade of physical and mental health problems. That's something that I've seen so many times, and I'm
Yeah.
very, very certain about that.
Yeah.
Because we are not expressing what wants to be expressed. And the very simplified opposite of that is the depression.
Yeah. Wow.
And now again, I'm not a physician, and there is so much research on all these different mental health and physical health issues. So I'm not claiming to know the truth,
Yeah.
but when I thought about that, I was like, whew, there is something there.
Yeah.
Because we are, as human beings, and just think about it, like you have a daughter, right? How old is she?
Almost 4.
Almost 4. Like, please tell your daughter to stop growing or to stop expanding.
We actually tell her this all the time. She's like, but I can't. We're like, stop growing. And she's like, I can't stop growing. I want to be an adult.
And that's the thing with us human beings, like we never stop growing.
Yeah.
Never. And we never stop expanding. And when we put ourselves into environments that restrict our expansion in a way, we are creating a different kind of experience. So the video player faces a lot of difficulty and a lot of struggle, and that's not necessarily bad, because it's there to teach the video player a lesson. And then maybe you need to go back to start a lot of times. Maybe you like you literally you don't make it in that level, so you need to go back to start. But every time you learn something, every time you have knowledge and you have experience, and like, okay, let's try again, now I know more. Yeah, it's something that I feel is very important to understand, that ultimately there is no way that I think, at least for me, for me there is no way to depress stuff anymore. Like, and it comes with a lot of with a lot of sacrifice and with a lot of struggle also. Like, it's not a walk in the park. It's not like here on Ibiza all roses and rainbows. And I mean, there are some rainbows because it rained a lot.
Yeah, it's raining a lot. Sorry.
But it's like, in a way there is a price to pay, but we can choose our battle, I feel. And we can really choose that. Like, we can choose our battle, at least in the Western world.
Yeah, I mean, when you explain the story of the girl you wanted to travel the world. And while you've explained your story, I know that like I've left South Africa to come live in Amsterdam, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we would like it or if we'd move back in 2 years or something. But just
Yeah.
knowing that at age 80 or 100 or whenever, I didn't want to be the person being like, I wonder what would have happened if we'd moved to Amsterdam, or I wonder
Yeah.
what would have
Right.
happened if I did this or I did that.
Mm.
And where people see a lot of roadblocks or like an impossibility, I think that if you want something enough, like you can make it happen or you can make a version of it happen. Like, sure, if you're like, I want to be a billionaire, like, yeah, cool, you could try do that, but what does that enable you to do? A lot of the time it's like, I want to eat fancy stuff, or like I want to be generous, or I want to travel. It's like, yep, you can do all of those kind of things without a billion. Like for me, often I'm like, oh, I want to be generous. And then I'll walk past like a beggar or something and I won't give him money because I'm like, oh, I don't actually have any that much money and I don't have cash and whatever. I just start making excuses. And then like my little voice inside my head's like, you're rich. Like you didn't follow your intuition. You didn't follow your gut. You didn't
Right.
give anything to that guy. You could have been generous without being a billionaire. And I'm just like, oh,
Mm.
yeah. Or like traveling. It's like, yeah, you don't need that much money to go travel. But if you're like, actually, I want to go stay in a hotel and I want to fly first class or business class and eat at all of, it's like,
Yeah.
cool. For me to do that, I'm going to have to like save a lot of money. But if you're like, I'm just going to book the cheapest ticket, I'm going to go, I'm going to do couch surfing or live in a hostel, and maybe it's only for 5 days. Like that's step one, like do it.
Yeah.
And especially
Yeah. Yeah.
people who are like, they put all of these like unrealistic expectations on this amazing life and they keep on like building it and making it bigger and more awesome. And to take that first step just becomes so hard. And sometimes if they do take that first step and they go on an airplane, it's like, I hate airports, I hate traveling, I don't want to do this. Like, then you've done it. Like, go back to your life, live in your apartment for the
Yeah.
rest of your life, and be happy that you're now no longer thinking about traveling and feeling guilty or whatever other feelings are
Yeah.
associated
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
not following your dreams, you know?
Yeah.
But in terms of like your step to do
Mm.
this, what fears did you have to overcome personally? And what fears are there now circling around you? What are your
Yeah.
fears saying?
So fear number one, being judged by loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of dissipated a lot, but that was very present in the beginning. And also being judged. And what helped me tremendously, really, and I quote this so much, but this is one of my favorite lines in a book that I think I've shared this so many times with people. There is the Stoic philosopher and former Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius, and when he was not he was not directing the army in war, he would just journal about stuff and about life and etc. And in one paragraph of his reflections, he shares that it goes like this: enter their minds, and you will find the judges you are so afraid of, and how ridiculously they judge themselves. And I was like, this dude wrote this like 2000 years ago. It's so relevant today. This helped me a lot to overcome the fear of being judged, because the reality is I have no control over this. You can judge me, and we do this all the time, but sometimes we judge judgment as being something good, and sometimes we judge it as being something bad. Eventually, judgment is just there to create a sense of safety, to understand, are you a threat or not? This is my understanding of it. So that was a big fear. And then the other fear was around, how are you gonna like set up your structures, and how are you gonna keep growing your business in small steps and watering that tiny little precious plant with that infinite potential, how is that gonna work if you're on the road?
Mm.
And that is right now my biggest the biggest fear or concern or struggle that roams around. Like, we are here now in a house which is not ours. I need to adjust to so many things. I need to
Yeah.
adjust the schedule. I need to. There's so much new stuff, and the newness takes a lot of energy. Something I had no idea that it's gonna take so much because I didn't have that experience. And that amount of energy that it takes, it feels like the capacity that, say, okay, let's think in terms of battery level.
Yeah.
So my ideal would be that I have 100% for working on the business, working on Slowdown Club, copywriting, coaching, spending time with my partner, spending time with my friends, and also doing fun stuff, right? I don't know, playing the ukulele and these kind of things. And I feel that and this is something that people, I think, always underestimate. Now I can say it, when they go through a big change.
Yeah.
It's like when you go through the change, you're not a robot, so it takes energy, which means that right now my battery is like 70% that I have available that I can allocate for all these things.
Yeah.
And that means that I'm growing stuff more slowly than I would love it to. And
Hmm.
that brings with this with paired with the uncertainty, that brings actually it brings deep down, it brings existential fears, like, oh, if you like, then the brain makes predictions. If you continue like this, what does that mean 6 months from now? What does that mean 4 months from now? What does that mean 1 year from now?
Yeah.
And the risk or the danger is to fall into the trap and believing that, because
Yeah.
obviously the brain can only make predictions on what it has already experienced. It can
Yes.
never that's the data that it has, right?
Yeah.
So the task right now for me is to just be very, very, like, very sharp and present with that, and to be like, ah, yeah, okay, the fear is there, all right, no problem, but like, what is in front of me? Like, what is the next step? And I now remember in our async, which I love, by the way, so much, the communication. It's the best thing. Um, Something that you really remind me of is like, hey, yeah, yeah, it's all right. You have the big dream, but like, take the next step. What is the next small step? And then sometimes I would see myself judging it, like, oh, it's so small. It's not anything. It's nothing. But if you want to climb Mount Everest, you need to you need to start with your first step, and you're not gonna make it if you don't do the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and so on. And I
Yeah.
feel this is something that we always forget. I always forget. I need to remind myself constantly. This is a big struggle.
You just want to be the guy who is at the top, who has already done Mount Everest, who not even needs to like walk down. You just want to be like, I did it. Like, you
Right.
don't want to be the guy who's walking up Mount Everest, because it's
Yeah.
hard. It's like every single
Yeah.
step is like step,
Mhm.
step, you know? Yeah. I'm like, I'm
Mm.
really happy, really glad that you're so aware of those steps, you know, that you're so aware of your fear. And it's also like, it's humbling and it's revealing to know that you are so mindful, and yet you also have fears. You also overcome them. You're operating, you're taking those steps despite the fear that you feel, despite the fear that you know is around. It's not like you don't have
Mm.
fear. It's like you're doing it like with fear. You're doing it
S-
anyway.
Sometimes you even have more of it.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. When you were in, I mean, I was quite sensitive for most of my life, but I numbed my sensitivity for, I don't know, for the first 25 years, because I didn't know how to handle it. Like,
Mm.
I literally didn't know how to handle myself, so I would like be on sugar, on sweets, on coffee, like all of these different things, other kind of distractions, porn, like, I don't know, whatever, you name it. because that was my way to self-regulate. That was my
Hmm.
way to also to not feel what I actually was feeling, because I didn't have the tools to feel what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Drinking a lot and like these kind of things. But once you stop doing that and you become more sensitive to whatever is present and whatever you're experiencing, and that's a practice. It's not like I'm not having this figured out at all, and I don't think anyone has. Like, and no one has stuff figured out. It might look like it, yes, but then you go behind the curtain, and then you see that there's always a mess somewhere, which is beautiful
Yeah.
because it unites us in our human experience.
Yeah.
It's so humbling. Um, and so yeah, when you think about these, when you think about this unnumbing process, when you all of a sudden, when you're like, oh yeah, I'm scared, okay, and there is maybe also anger, and there is frustration, and there is a lot of shame, and there is sadness, and there's like all of these things. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's I really like this quote. And I don't know if anyone came up with it or I can coin it to be mine. It doesn't matter. My ego is like, you want to have your quote, you want to be quoted for
Yes.
something.
Yes.
It's like,
Let it be stated on the TapTapKaboom podcast on the
let's
13th of
go.
November, 2024, that Christian Fleck is about to quote something monumentous.
Yes. Stuff cannot be unseen, but it can be ignored. Like
like
I
it.
can, once I see something, like once you see that you're angry, and once you see that you're in your comfort zone,
Yeah.
you can't not see it, but you can ignore it. And that ignoring part is when you are working against your nature, when you're working against your creativity, when you're working against who you really are, because then you're not on the path of like working towards you expressing yourself, but then you're on the path of like working against something that is bubbling. It's
Yeah.
imagine like it's like a water ball, and you try to to push it down, and you need both hands to push it down. It's a lot of energy and effort, and you need to push it down, but it's just air underwater. And this ball, it's a lot of energy and effort, and you can do, if you let this if you let it float, and if you let it free,
Yeah.
then you have two hands available, and you can create much more with those. I mean, this particularly as an artist,
I
but
like
it's
that a
also
lot.
it's also metaphor. It's not just
Yeah.
physically using the hands.
I love that a lot. We don't have that much time left, so I'd love to ask you to explain what Slow Down Club is, what the need for slowing down is, what your next steps are. Like, I know I've been on a journey with you uh, around what it is, what it's not.
Yeah.
It's almost started a few times. On Friday, it's starting again, or there's an open session. Like,
Right.
tell us.
So I'll be brief and concise this time. I practice. Okay. Let me practice here.
The floor
So
is yours.
let me start with the need. The world is just going super fast. Everyone feels it. Everyone knows it. And tech is accelerating. Everything else is accelerating. Unfortunately, also mental conditions and the feeling of disconnection are also accelerating. And I've found that a very good way how to fight this, or how to navigate these waves, is to cultivate micro moments of presence. I do this in my personal practice. I've tested it last year in a group, and then I said, I know for a fact from experience and conversations with other founders and CEOs and entrepreneurs, that they struggle with that a lot, because they're always like, I don't have time for this. I know I should make time for it, but I don't have time, or I can't make the time. So Slowdown Club is the container, is the place where these people, these founders and these entrepreneurs, where they actually can come to in an online setting and make time for regular reflection together with small intimate group of like-minded people facilitated by a professional. This is the underlying idea behind. I will do some one-on-one coaching. I have a limited availability there, and we will probably launch the first one or two groups in January or February. It depends. Currently we're enrolling people and screening people and see who actually in reality is like, who understands the need to really do that, and who sees the value in, it's like, hey, let's just spend money and make time every 2 weeks to meet with these people and to slow down, to reflect, to focus, to connect, to share my story, to learn from other stories, in order to do in order to recenter myself on a regular basis, as opposed to I only recenter myself when I'm really struggling with something and I need to really pull myself out of the rut.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea. And right now, what's happening until probably the end of the year, that every Friday I will host an open session where people can apply to join, and where we will experience how it actually feels to be in such a space. And that kind of ties to what we've said in the very beginning. Like, we can talk about stuff a lot. It's a bit like, was this the perfect elevator pitch? Probably not. Did people hopefully get the essence of what I'm intending to bring into the world there?
Yeah.
By the way, Rich created the logo. Amazing. I think yes, and I'm really curious. So if anyone feels the resonance, then reach out, and we're
Yeah.
gonna have a good time every Friday for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going on holiday / work to Brighton this week, or tomorrow actually, and I'm like, I'm missing this first like open session. I'm also missing another friend's like gallery opening or exhibition opening, and I'm like, bittersweet here. Like, I'm going on holiday, but man, I'm very much looking forward to the next one. Like, I want to experience that. I've done a lot of talking. We've done a lot of talking about what this looks like, what it could look like, and for me, this is like the first step. The next step, this is like the rubber hits the road. This is like,
yes,
all the talk comes down to the action that you take.
Yes.
And there's this really cool quote that I read somewhere, like, love action, not results. And I'm practicing at the moment. Just like, I'm posting stuff no matter how much success or how many likes or how many comments I get, because
this is amazing, man.
When you act, like, that's the only thing that you can control, and you're going to get better by acting more. The results will come, and I'm just like, every time, me looking at the Rich the player is like, Rich is getting disappointed by how little results he's getting. It's like, oh yeah, love the action. Hey Rich, love the action. Then I'm like, yes, I took another action, and then I get happy, and I'm like, I did this thing.
That's amazing. I can relate a lot to that, and I feel it's really if we do that, like, if we love the action, then it can help us to make decisions much better. Much better. Because if I know that, hey, every morning I need to, like, I don't know, brush my teeth, we don't think about that, but that's what we do, and it creates a result. But it's just eventually it's something that we do over time. So I love that quote, man. Wow.
I know, it's I've got it big in my notebook, and I think about it every single day. Like, just love the action. It doesn't matter what other people think, what other people say.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think perhaps we can close. I'd love to know, like, in 5 or 10 years, like, what is your dream? Like, where are you heading? Like, what would be like the perfect catch-up kind of podcast to be like, yo, remember when we were both like on these like webcams sitting in opposite sides of the world, and you were in Ibiza and I was in Amsterdam? Like remember that? Like, whoa, like so much has changed. Like what do you have a picture of that, what that might be like, or like where is that far out place for you?
I see myself teaching in different places around the world, and having and I see myself that I keep spreading the seeds of mindfulness, of meditation, of presence, collecting stories all over the globe. Like if you ask me in 10 years, I will tell you I've collected thousands of stories of cool people
Hmm.
that really inspire me, that I can now share with others, and in whatever shape or form. Um, and then on a personal level, there's definitely a there is a family, and there is how can I say that? Like there is a sense of like I trusted myself much more, and I fell in love with the action much more after our podcast also.
Hmm.
It's
I
quite
like that.
vague. I was so not prepared to that question. I love the question. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it was maybe Sam Altman. I was reading his blog the other day,
Hmm.
and it was like one of the tabs that was just there for a long time because it was a long article on like how to be
Yeah,
successful. And
yeah,
one of the things was like, don't focus on the short term things, like focus on the
yeah,
long term things. And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
oftentimes I'm
yeah,
like, oh, I need to do this thing today and this thing tomorrow. And it's like,
yeah,
yeah, but like, is that going to matter in 10 years time? Or can
yeah,
you see yourself doing this in 10 years time? Like, if you
yeah,
can't,
yeah,
like, why are you
yeah,
doing this? Like,
yeah.
you
Kind of like
know,
the vision behind the vision,
yeah, it's like,
and
yeah,
yeah. And I feel like for me, if we still have 1 minute or
of
20
course,
seconds, I don't know.
of course, yeah.
Like what it really is like, and the big that would be the big change like for me right now. And I've been discussing this a lot with my partner also, and I'm much more aware, but it's a lot about, me.
Hmm.
And what I love and what will change if we keep on using your future pacing format and question, that like it really shifted from me to empowering we,
Hmm.
and to connect the people that I have in my network much more with each other, and empower them and support them, because this is where I really thrive. Like
Yeah,
whenever I think about me, it feels very, in a way, very weirdly like constrictive almost. Like it's not nice when all is about you. It's much
yeah,
nicer if your creation is about collaboration and about the we and about the others. So I see this huge web of people that are somehow connected with the idea of slowing down, because I know that it's needed. And yeah, there are many more other ideas that are on my mind, like a huge slowdown summit conference and like all of these great ideas. And then it again, like it's important to have them.
yeah,
It's really important to have them, but then it's actually, when you think about it, it's really important to look at the idea, say a huge slowdown summit, and be like, okay, how could this start? Like
mm,
tomorrow, what are the steps? How can we test this? How could this start? Like how can we experience that?
yeah,
For example, when I started with public speaking a little bit, I didn't know if I enjoy speaking in front of people, but then I started to explore it, and I was like, oh, all of a sudden I could do I could moderate the wedding of my best friend for 200 people. I was like, okay, cool, that's nice.
Yeah.
So it's a lot about enabling and creating these shared experiences where we can slow down to do the other stuff much more alive. I think that would sum it up.
Yeah. I mean, there was this LinkedIn post that you posted maybe like 4 months ago about the people I'd like to have around a campfire. And I was like,
Right.
there we go. Like that for me was like the essence of the Slow Down Club. Today, tomorrow, and like maybe in 10 years' time, like
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, like every time I'm around a campfire, like it's so good. And I know there's a whole bunch of businesses called Campfire online. I'm like, no, I don't think you guys get it. Like, no. But yeah, that for me was just like, yeah, I'd love to sit around the fire with people that are really intelligent or sensitive or have that presence, and they care. And they want to be there, and they want to listen as well, not just be like, I'm talking, like listen to me. So yeah, like the fact that you like could bring those kinds of people around, like in your network online, I was like, wow, like that's amazing. I'd love to be there. I'd love to be part of that over and over again with multiple kinds of people. So thank you so much for being on the TapTapKaboom podcast. It has been amazing, and I know that we could speak for another 2 hours. Much like the rest of my guests, I think I'm also partly to blame because I love talking, love asking questions. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more asynchronous chats, more calls. Really appreciate you being in my life. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It was amazing.
All right, I'm going to push this stop button. Bam. There we go. Whew, that was a good one, bro. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everything is uploaded, so boom.
We are good. I can give the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Great conversation. Send feedback.
There was something I wanted to ask you. You don't necessarily have to answer now, but it's something I've been thinking about. And the idea is like jumping comfort zone again. Like in South Africa, I had my little comfort zone and I was very comfortable, but I knew there was something bigger out there. I was like, I want to go travel. I want to go to a different country. I want to try something different. And it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe partly I didn't feel whatever it was, comfortable or content, but it was like I needed to go somewhere else. I needed to get out there. And it kind of feels like there's something like that going on now. Like, I just don't know what it is that's out there, you know? It's like I keep on trying some things, new things, like on a weekly or monthly basis. I'm swinging from like, I want to be a developer who has like a startup to like, all right, so we're doing coaching now. Okay, creativity, full blast. Let's do this. Let's create funnels and products around creativity. Like, nah, let's become a full-time illustrator, doodler, creative person. And I just like, but it just kind of feels like all of those are like really small, you know? Like, do you have any processes of figuring out like the big thing?
Yes, I have. I've done this a few times with people. Let me think.